Welcome to our 12th season of the Parkinson's Foundation Expert Briefing Series. I'm Lisa Hoffman, the Director of Professional Education at the Parkinson's Foundation. I may be a new face for most of you, and I am delighted to be here. As you can see, this season we're doing things a little bit differently because based on your feedback, you've asked us to go deeper in select topics. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So this expert briefing series is divided up to two themes. Our fall season consists of 3 webinars all about young onset Parkinson's disease. And our winter-spring season focuses on symptom management. Is it PD, medication, or aging? Although we're doing things differently, some things stay the same. So as a reminder, as you navigate around your screen, if you have a question for the presenters, you can click on the icon Q&A at the bottom of your screen. The chat button, we will be sending out links that are of interest to you. So at this point, I'd like to ask my colleague to chat a link so you can download the slides. We've been asked many times if you're able to download them or to view them on your own, and we'd like you to do that. So you'll see now in the chat. And if you are not able to grab that in the chat, we will also have it on our website as well. For those health professionals who are interested in applying for one free CEU through our partnership of American Society on Aging, you can click on the link that is chatted now. You can also click on the link for the CEU at the end of the webinar as well, and also you'll see that on our website. And for those of you who are interested in CEUs, remember you only have 30 days to apply, and so that is valid only through October 15th. And this expert briefing and all our expert briefings are recorded for on-demand viewing so you can view at your leisure. Give us a few days and we'll have it ready for you to view, and we'll be sending out an email to let you know. But at this point, I'd like to know who is viewing with us. So if you could share the first poll. So what describes your connection to Parkinson's disease? You'll have a few moments to vote. I see some people. It's the blue bar is moving along. Oh, this is really fun to watch. All right, everyone's working really fast here. That's great. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay. All right, great. And let's share the results. All right, so we have a lot of people. The majority of people here viewing are people with Parkinson's and also healthcare professionals. And greetings to all who are viewing today. All right, if we have one more question I'd like to ask you. So if we can push the second poll. If you are a person with Parkinson's or a care partner, what was the age of diagnosis? I realize we're doing something a little bit differently, so we are looking at the young age onset of PD. So we're just curious as to if this is our audience who are viewing or is older as well, and everybody is welcomed. All right, a little bit more. We're coming in there right in the middle of the pack here. I see in the 40 to 60 range too, and some very young early age onset as well. Okay, if you could end the polling, let's show the results. All right, nice to see many of you who are joining us today. Thank you for sharing the poll. So today, we're thrilled to kick off our Young Onset PD series with Not What I Planned for Me or My Family. We'll be hearing not only from our expert presenter, Allison Allen, but 2 engaging and energetic individuals who, when diagnosed with PD at the age of 38 and 39, were propelled into action. Oh, wait till you hear. At this point, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Allison Allen. Allison is a licensed clinical social worker and a Centers of Excellence coordinator at the Duke Movement Disorder Center, a Parkinson Center of Excellence. As a member of the Interdisciplinary Movement Disorder team, She has particular interest in mental health and non-motor symptoms, crisis support, and family-centered care. She's involved with the World Parkinson's Coalition, facilitating programs at the World Parkinson's Congress 2019 in Kyoto, Japan, including the emotional roller coaster of PD, and recently presented in the WPC Care Partner webinar series on mental health. And really very exciting to share with everybody that just this past July, Allison was awarded the Brandy McDaniel Clinical Social Worker of the Year Award for 2020 at Duke University Medical Center. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you Allison Allen. Hi, Allison. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Lisa. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. I am really honored to be with you all today. Let's see here. Okay, I have a couple of disclosures listed here related to my salary support and a few special projects that I'm working on. But let's get started. Ryan, we're having a little trouble here. There we go. Okay, so why is it important to distinguish, Why is it important to distinguish young onset Parkinson's disease from Parkinson's disease? In the United States, there are nearly 1 million people living with Parkinson's. And while a diagnosis of any disease is certainly significant, young onset Parkinson's disease, or YOPD as I will call it often, is particularly interruptive and unexpected, as busy careers and parenting are already keeping the days full. All of a sudden, plans and goals that you may have had for the future for you or your family might feel uncertain or feel like they need to be put on hold. And it can be really hard to decide what the next move should be. So today, we're going to talk about taking a proactive approach to managing YOPD. This can really help to mitigate stress, which may exacerbate motor or movement symptoms and non-motor or non-movement symptoms. We will also discuss strategies for coping with the diagnosis, as well as practical steps to organizing your care team and creating a care plan, all with the goal of empowering the person with Parkinson's and their family. As Lisa said, you'll be hearing from me, in addition to two amazing and fabulous individuals living really well with YOPD, Anna Grill and Paul Klopp, the true experts. Our learning objectives today are intended to inform a diverse audience. People living with YOPD, we saw are some of our primary participants today, but also their families and care partners and the many professionals that are also here. So after we talk a little bit about what YOPD is, we'll continue by describing the benefits of interdisciplinary care early in the disease process and early or immediately following the diagnosis of YOPD. Next, we'll cover proactive strategies for living well with Parkinson's at a young age. And finally, since YOPD impacts more than just the family with the person with Parkinson's, we will identify steps for planning ahead for your family. So what is YOPD? As we go through our conversation today, I want to be sure that our viewers, especially those who may be new to the diagnosis, understand a few facts about what YOPD is, especially in comparison to general PD. So young onset Parkinson's disease occurs in people with PD who are diagnosed before age 50. Just like PD, this diagnosis is a clinical one, meaning that your provider will complete assessments, watch you do some tasks like moving your hands or walking down the hallway, but that there's not, for example, a blood test to confirm the diagnosis. Up to 10% of total people with Parkinson's living in the United States have YOPD. So earlier I mentioned that larger number of 1 million people with Parkinson's in the United States. That works out to be about 100,000 folks with YOPD living right here in the States. In both YOPD and Parkinson's, you'll find similar motor and non-motor clinical symptoms. Again, motor or movement symptoms the more common ones being tremor, rigidity, bradykinesia, or impaired balance. And for non-motor symptoms, very commonly you'll find depression, sleep disturbances, mood and memory changes, or urinary issues. Just as the symptoms are similar, treatment options to manage them are also generally the same. But there are notable clinical differences between PD and YOPD. Symptoms may progress more slowly in YOPD, but folks with YOPD may be more likely to experience side effects from some common Parkinson's medicine. We call those dopaminergic medicines, for example, levodopa. Side effects might include dyskinesias, which are a type of involuntary movement in your arms, legs, body, or face. In typical PD, these often occur as a side effect after, say, many years of taking a medication, but they're thought to happen sooner in younger people with Parkinson's. Dopamine agonists specifically can sometimes make dyskinesias worse. You might also see more frequent dystonias. Dystonias are a type of dyskinesia since they're technically an involuntary movement that might be present in some people with Parkinson's, but dystonia also exists separately or independently as its own movement disorder, separate from Parkinson's. Dystonias are described as cramping or muscle tightening that happens repetitively, often in your feet or in your neck, but can happen all over and are often tied to off times. So, on and off times are common lingo for all people with Parkinson's. However, for folks with YOPD, we might see a greater fluctuation between the on times and the off times. As I mentioned before, this can be connected to the management of dyskinesias. So research investigating genes connected to Parkinson's is fairly new and super exciting and definitely ongoing. But it does seem like from initial results that people with YOPD are more likely to carry the genes that have been linked to Parkinson's, although not everybody that has the gene will have Parkinson's. And finally, younger brains may have higher neuroplasticity. I'm going to mention neuroplasticity several times today. I think this is a powerful driver of care plans for providers and a motivator for those folks living with YOPD. Think of neuroplasticity as the ability for your brain to learn or be trained or retrained after an illness or an injury. So essentially, the younger you are, the more of an opportunity you have to train or retrain your brain. Another key or important difference between YOPD and PD is present right from the start. YOPD diagnoses are more likely to sneak in during one of the busiest times of our lives. People with YOPD are often already very busy with careers. They may have new intimate relationships or connections or partnerships. They might be parenting and looking to expand or grow their family. And very frequently, we care for folks with YOPD who are caregivers themselves, not just for kids, but perhaps for their own aging parents. And more often than not, they've got big plans for the future, which sometimes include retirement. Despite this, do not forget that you are still the same person that you were before this diagnosis. Be sure to give yourself and your care partner some emotional space to process the diagnosis, but remember that emotional reactions or responses vary greatly, and these feelings can bubble up at any stage of Parkinson's, not just immediately following a diagnosis. And that is just completely and totally normal, but still, Parkinson's does not define you. The points that we just discussed are really some of the top priorities for folks living with young onset PD. Yet for providers who might be more accustomed to caring for older patients with Parkinson's, these might be overlooked or even underestimated. I am a huge fan of patient and family-centered care and truly meeting a patient right where they are. Without recognizing a patient's priorities outside of the clinic, you can't effectively collaborate to determine what their real care goals are. So, as someone caring for folks with young onset Parkinson's, make sure you assess for some of these distinguishing social factors. Have a look at what their parenting and caregiving responsibilities may be on a day-to-day basis, and how this might impact their ability to take time away from work or those other responsibilities to make it to provider visits. Talk with them about what their future plans are. Is someone looking to continue their education? Do they have big career goals or maybe even a career change coming? Are they hoping to grow or expand their family or planning a pregnancy? Should there be a conversation about genetic testing? Once you've assessed these, you can better understand how patients spend their time and what their goals truly are. Consider all of these factors and how they fit in with your clinical care plans. So, despite busy schedules, I've often found that patients with YOPD are incredibly invested for advocating for themselves and the greater YOPD community via participation in clinical research. PD-Gene, which is this logo here on the right of this screen, is a great referral for folks that are living with YOPD. Check out the Parkinson's Foundation website for more information on that trial. I think you'll get some information emailed to you following the presentation about that as well. And finally, do not forget to refer early to interdisciplinary care. If getting to visits during the day is challenging, coordinate with the interdisciplinary team to have same-day visits. Many providers and patients alike might not think of a referral to interdisciplinary care early in the disease process, but the reality is the potential for benefits at this stage is monumental. So what's the big deal about interdisciplinary care, and what is it? Interdisciplinary care is a team approach to care, where a variety of specialists collaborate to create a care plan together with the patient and family. This is different from usual care or even multidisciplinary care, where providers make referrals out after seeing the patient, typically in a sort of a reactive type of way. And the specialist that they refer to may or may not conference back or consult back. For young onset Parkinson's disease patients, interdisciplinary care ideally starts with a movement disorder specialist. We see the best outcomes for patients with Parkinson's when they're working with a movement disorder specialist as opposed to a primary care doctor or general neurologist only. Other interdisciplinary team members might include a physical therapist, a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, a social worker or mental health provider like a psychologist, a pharmacist, and a nutritionist, and the list really goes on. If you're looking to get connected but not sure where to start, check out the Parkinson's Foundation website to find if there's a center of excellence near you. If you are a provider or person with YOPD and need further convincing from me about the benefits of interdisciplinary care, consider these. Baseline assessments help to determine opportunities to stay well. They also help to identify the areas for improvement or where there may be the greatest opportunity for improvement. You can also really identify what it is that's working well for you and how to keep doing more of it. You can learn preventative strategies like voice and communication exercises and specifically prescribed exercise regimens. And then you can use these to make a personalized care plan using your priorities outside of the clinic. Remember, younger brains may have more neuroplasticity. So a referral to interdisciplinary care for patients with YOPD is really a perfect fit. A reminder to providers to be sure that the reason for early referral is explained to patients. This will help them to prioritize clinical goals amidst their busy lives outside of young onset Parkinson's disease and reduce any anxiety they might have about needing a referral so soon. For folks with YOPD, request a referral if it's not offered. Again, consider grouping the specialists together if time away from work is an issue, or picking one at a time just to get started. And finally, current research shows that collaborative interdisciplinary models have benefits over usual care or even multidisciplinary care across the board. In addition to increased patient and family assessment of their own quality of care, there are actual improved clinical outcomes, including fewer errors and less rehospitalizations. As we move into determining next steps following a YOPD diagnosis and getting established with care, think about what your goals are. We've just talked about a lot of action items, But where should you start? Decision-making can be tough and overwhelming, especially if you try to make a bunch of decisions all at once. So start by naming your priorities and goals, and then consider how they may drive your care plan, and very importantly, take them one at a time. One of those decisions might be whether or not you'd like to start taking medications. We hear this quite often, or we see the deliberation quite often for folks with YOPD. This is a totally personal decision. Together with your provider, you can make a choice that works best for you at that time. It's really important to remember you can always change your mind later or try something else later. Outside of the doctor's office, you might think about if you want to get involved in the YOPD or PD communities. There are support groups and educational programs and virtual walks that are very widely available these days online. And maybe that's a great option for you, or perhaps it's not a good fit for you right now, and that's totally okay too. Remember, you decide when, where, with who, and how you share your story, your diagnosis, personally and professionally. And Lisa mentioned earlier, but another quick plug for the next expert briefing in this series, Work It Out, on October 27th for a deep dive into YOPD in the workplace. Oops. So that brings us to our next slide. It's up to you who's on your team, but YOPD does impact the whole family. Part of decision-making means thinking ahead. It can sometimes be difficult to think about, but planning in advance can really help and be beneficial if there is a time of crisis in the future. Practical action items for planning in advance for your family include completing healthcare power of attorneys, or HCPOA, advance directives, and making care plans for your children or others who may depend on you or rely on you. Young people don't typically think of advanced care planning, the name that we give for all of these documents together, but it's something that we should all do. Remember, these documents and decisions only come into play in emergency situations or in the case that you're not able to make decisions for yourself. And they can always be changed and updated at a later date if your situation or wishes change. It's also important to understand what benefits that might be available to you through your employer or private insurance policies if additional support is needed later down the line. And finally, talking with kids about illness, especially in their parents, is tough. There's just no sugarcoating it. But there are so many great resources like this fact sheet pictured here on the right from the Parkinson's Foundation. Your first instinct might be to keep the information hidden or inside, but kids are smart and they know how to access things online. So fostering an open and honest but age-appropriate conversation early can ensure that they get factual information from you. We have also learned that when it comes to chronic disease, a child's outlook was strongly connected to that of their parents. So, in other words, if a parent was hopeful, then the child was too. As important as planning ahead is, remember that you are living here, now, today. There are so many steps that you can take each and every day to really live well with Parkinson's. Exercise is the first one I'll list. Exercise. Exercise has known neuroprotective benefits for folks with Parkinson's, which leads to the importance of exercise as a prescription, as a reminder to providers, right from the beginning of Parkinson's. If you need a place to start and you're somebody with YOPD, exercise is a great one. It's good for your mind and your body. Even if you're early in your disease process and feeling relatively well, try to prioritize those PD-related visits so that you continue to stay ahead of your symptoms. If you're having problems making them, balancing your life at home, let your provider know and work together to come up with a plan. Create a daily routine that balances your personal and professional goals. Make space to talk about Parkinson's as needed and protect it if necessary to make sure that it doesn't overflow or seep into all the other good things in your life. Take a step back and evaluate your support system, natural and created, and grow them as necessary. Be kind to yourself, ask for help if you need it, and be willing to accept it when offered. Remember, you are always evolving and growing as a person, and circumstances are ever changing. Your plans and goals can change too. Nothing is in stone. This is your story. And while young onset Parkinson's disease is a part of it now and always will be, there is so much more to you. And now I am so happy for you to meet Anna Grill and Paul Klopp through this video introduction.
Hi, my name is Anna Grill, and I'm 51 years old. And for the last 13 years, I am a person living with Parkinson's disease. It was quite a shock to learn at the age of 38 that the hardly discernible tremor in my left hand was a symptom of early onset Parkinson's. How could that be? I was an active, fit 30-something taking on the world. Between quickly climbing the corporate ladder and being elected PTA president at my kids' elementary school, there was no time on my to-do list for Parkinson's, and for the next 10 years, I purposefully kept it off that list, keeping it to myself and forging on with life. My girls at age 9 and 7 were too young to understand the complexities of PD, and I was the primary breadwinner in the family. I had worked extremely hard to become the youngest and only female member on my leadership team at work. I wanted my results, not my disability, to continue to define me at work and in life. Eventually, after working full-time for 10 years with PD, I left my career and started managing through the reality that I have a life-altering movement disorder that affects not just me, but all those around me. Since then, my life has changed quite a bit. I count pills now instead of sales quotas, and spend the majority of my time exercising to fight the progression of the disease and to keep fit. I have also become a very active Parkinson's Foundation volunteer and advocate, serving as the DC Moving Day event chair for the last 3 years. Most recently, I've also joined the board of a local organization called Can't Shake Me, which dedicates its time to helping those with young onset Parkinson's disease. Now I'm going to turn it over to my partner in that effort, Paul Klopp, who will share his PD story with you as well. Paul?
Hello everyone, my name is Paul Klopp. I'm 43 years old and I have Parkinson's disease. I was diagnosed 3 years ago prior to my 40th birthday. My diagnosis was terrifying and left me with the fear of the unknown and raised doubt and hope for my future. I questioned what would my life be like now? What would people think of me? How long would I have before I might need assistance to walk, bathe, or even clothe myself? Is there anyone else out there like me under the age of 50 with PD? These questions led me to research YOPD and Parkinson's, and 2 things I learned stuck with me. 1, there's lots of general information about PD, but there's a lack of information about YOPD and resources specifically tailored for YOPD. And 2, the exercise can ease the symptoms and slow the progression of PD. I've always been passionate about working out, so learning about the benefits of exercise on PD was rewarding. I now had extra motivation to push myself to another level in the gym. I'm currently in the best shape of my life, and I make it a point to challenge myself to physical feats that even someone without PD would struggle to do. I accept and embrace that I have PD, and believe I was given it for a reason. In 2018, my wife Tanya and I started Can't Shake Me, a 501c3 nonprofit to help people with PD stay healthy through exercise regardless of their financial situation. In February, Anna Grill joined the team with the idea to focus on young onset community that she and I are both a part of. Fueled by a Parkinson's Foundation community grant, CSM is now accelerating their efforts to make YOPD community lives better. And we are excited to be here with you today to discuss living well with PD.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories with us today, Anna and Paul. Your YOPD journeys have been amazing, and they've certainly evolved over time. Looking back, what was it like when you were first diagnosed?
Wow, well, for me, that was 13 years ago now, and it was very emotional for sure. I remember I was 38, as you saw in the video, and I just remember walking out of the doctor's office with my husband and breaking down into tears in the parking lot, and him holding me and telling me everything was going to be okay. because I was so busy at the time with work and life, I really didn't have the time to sit and wallow about it too long though. So I just put on my happy face and kept pushing forward. And also because of the lack of YOPD resources available at the time and my resistance to wanting to get involved in traditional older support groups, I really didn't have anyone to talk to about this that could relate to it at all until almost 10 years later when I started boxing with my Rock Steady boxing group. So that was a long time to go without any interaction with anyone who had Parkinson's, and that was the first time I actually met someone else with Parkinson's as well. So it was a long, lonely road for a while there for me.
Yeah, and for myself, I mean, I was just about turning 40 years old, which is a hard birthday for a lot of people, let alone finding out that you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, you know, an incurable progressive disease. So it was really hard on me. I was depressed for a while until my wife, you know, she confronted me and she said, "Hey, Paul, you can continue to cry about it, or you can do something about this and use your diagnosis for good." So, you know, here I am today, being able to share my story with all of you. So I've learned to basically overcome that, you know, the fear I had before.
Yeah, you know, you both mentioned a couple of things, your work and your family and your social lives, and I'd like to dive a little bit deeper here if you'll let me.
Sure.
Anna, you shared a little bit of the challenges in the video about what it was like talking with your kids after the diagnosis. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what their journey has been, or your journey with them as a mom has been?
Absolutely. I'll start by saying I did not do anything that Allison suggested to do in her piece. So this is a do as I say, not as I do, I guess, story. So as you saw in the video, my kids were 9 and 7 when I got diagnosed, and I just felt like that was way too young to try to explain the complexities of PD, and my symptoms weren't so bad then. So I intentionally did not tell them, as well as most other people in my life, besides my parents and my husband. And with regards to my kids, you know, I definitely waited too long, and in retrospect, it breaks my heart in some ways. I think it was about when they were maybe 12 and 14 that we actually sat down and discussed it. And unfortunately for me, my youngest daughter, who's very inquisitive, and as Allison said, they all are very good at using the computers. She had already realized something was up in my movement disorders that she could see. And she had done her Dr. MD work online and had herself diagnosed me with Huntington's disease, which is a fatal disease. And for however long it was that she had done that, till when I sat down and talked with them frankly about it, she was living with that thought and decision in her mind that that was my diagnosis, which is just, it just kills me. And I hate to think that. So, you know, they're 19 and 21 now. They're fantastic kids. They have really fully support me and my efforts with volunteering and whatnot. And all's well that ends well. But I would highly recommend that one of the lessons I learned was, you know, don't wait too long to tell the kids, because they're smarter and more resourceful than you think.
Thanks for that honest answer.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
one of the things that you talked about was managing your career, and you kind of alluded to work, you know, interacting with others and your coworkers. Talk to us a little bit about what your experience was like with those normal interactions.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, when I was first diagnosed, I didn't really divulge initially with all my colleagues and my supervisors or my employer that I had Parkinson's. You know, I was still a little bit depressed about it. It took me a little while to get over that. But then when I learned to accept it, you know, I embraced the fact that I had it. I went out of my way to try to educate people about Parkinson's and about YOPD. I wanted to dispel the notion that, you know, Parkinson's isn't just for old people, that it, you know, it's young people also. You know, I'm the face of Parkinson's. Anna's the face of Parkinson's. And my employer has been great. I mean, they've been very supportive and with me and my diagnosis. They've gone out of the way to help me and assist me in anything I need, whether it's Dragon software or other things out there, that accommodations. You know, I would encourage people to, you know, when they're ready to divulge their diagnosis to their employers, but only when they're ready. For me, it just took a little bit, but I mean, I'm glad that I did it. And I'm glad now I can be an example for people with Parkinson's out there. And you know, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. So also on the call today, almost just as many providers are with us as there are folks with Parkinson's. So what advice do you have for them specifically as they care for folks with YOPD?
I have a lot of personal experience with this one over the years that I've had PD, dealing with different personality types and styles with regards to healthcare in general. And, you know, some have been really excellent and some have been not so great. I'll start with my first experience as a 38-year-old walking into the first neurologist office to get an assessment of what this small tremor was in my pinky. And you may call her a genius doctor now because of this, but I never went back to see her again one time after that. And it was because she walked in the door. She was an movement disorder specialist and a neurologist, and she walked into the examination room door. She stood about 5 feet away from me, looked at me for maybe 5 seconds, didn't offer introductions or anything, and she looked at me and said, "You have Parkinson's." And I just was floored. I was just, you can imagine, I was destroyed. I was wondering, who are you and how is this possible? You know, I'm 38 years old. I have a little twitch in my pinky. I don't have Parkinson's. And that was her style. So absolutely, I'd say that's not the right approach, especially with young onset, because I think these practitioners have to realize that they're delivering the news to someone that they have a neurodegenerative disease that has no cure, but they're delivering it to someone who's in the prime time of their lives. So it's a little different than when you're delivering that to a person who might be 65, 70, 75. Devastating news for anyone at any age, and I don't want to downplay the effect at the older stage, but I mean, completely catastrophic to someone who hasn't lived their life yet. So I didn't see her again. And it took only a few more months, though, through other specialists that had better bedside manner to diagnose me with Parkinson's. And I've been seen by basically two MDS specialists over the time of my years that I've had it. Both excellent doctors, both gave me excellent care, very different styles. And the first was more, and I didn't really realize it until I went to my current doctor and realized the difference. Because I just assumed that neurologists all acted the way my first doctor did, which again, very good care, very much more clinical approach though. Very much more focused on the UPDRS tests, tracking what the scores were this visit versus last visit. And then from that calculation, telling me how I'm doing with regards to the disease progression. And then writing out a script and sending me on my way. And granted, I did receive very good care from that doctor. But then I changed doctors for a variety of reasons: geographic location, convenience, etc. And my current doctor is very different in his approach, whereas he's not all tied up with the scores. He obviously does keep them on record, but he's more about taking time to sit down and just talk to me and ask me, how am I doing? How are my kids? How's my husband? How's my life? Am I achieving what I want to achieve with PD? And what can he do to help? So it's much more of a collaborative partnership, and it's much more of a personal approach, I would call it. And that's the one big thing that I would suggest to the practitioners, is to keep those things in mind as you approach your clients.
That's really good advice. Thanks for that. I think it also speaks to that it's okay to try things on for size, whether it's management, treatment, or also providers.
And you have to be proactive about this.
Yeah.
This is your life. If you don't feel like you're getting what you need or you're getting as much as you deserve, speak up and make a change.
So both of your journeys have had challenges and bumps, but what's really terrific is that it ultimately culminated in you guys creating this amazing organization, Can't Shake Me. Tell us a little bit more about how you came to this, or what advice you might have for other folks with YOPD who are just starting to sort of take the reins.
Yeah, so my wife and I first created Can't Shake Me, our nonprofit, which is originally focused on fitness. You know, I've always been into fitness, and fitness is very important for people with PD. So that was our main focus. But then we brought in Anna on the board of directors, and we all sat down and kind of talked about it, the mission of Can't Shake Me. We realized that there was more needed to be done. We saw with a lack of awareness, we thought, about YOPD, and not enough services out there specifically designed for us YOPDers. So we restructured CSM now towards, providing services specifically for YOPD that are focused around the mind, body, and community.
Yeah, and I'd really say, regarding your advice piece, Allison, I think I can sum it up pretty quickly under the 3 pillars that we're building Can't Shake Me on, which is, as Paul just mentioned, is body, mind, and community. You know, from a body perspective, stay active. You already heard this from Allison. I think exercise is a critical component to everyone's wellness with PD. It absolutely is probably the only known drug, we'll say, to, you know, help slow the progression for sure. And it doesn't only help your body, it really helps your mind too. You get the endorphins flowing and you just feel better about yourself when you watch yourself punching bags. And it lets you get a lot of frustration out too if you choose boxing as your sport. But find something, anything. It doesn't have to be a particular sport, something that you enjoy. And we're going to be focusing on, we do focus on this already with Can't Shake Me, with fitness videos available that you can access at any time. It's convenient for you as a young onset person. We know that middle of the day, we probably didn't get our maximum audience today because it was held at 1 o'clock in the day. And a lot of our YOPD people are at work right now. So with our organization, we're looking to structure, to have resources and meetings and such after hours, you know, before, early, late, but we know that this population's on the move and they're very busy. So staying active is probably my first line of advice for you all. Mind, you gotta take care of your mind. This is a real mind game, and you gotta stay positive. You gotta find a way to stay positive. You are, as Allison mentioned as well, you are still you. Don't lose that. Don't let Parkinson's define yourself. Michael J. Fox has a quote out that I love, and I know he has a lot of them, but the one that I really like is, he talks about worrying, and he says, don't ever imagine the worst case outcome, because it rarely happens, and if you did, and if it does, you've had to experience it twice. So this is very much a controllables disease. There are aspects you can control. You can control your diet, you can control your activity. You know, your exercise, you can control your interaction with people, which is very, very important. And you control your attitude. So, you know, stay positive, and, you know, we look forward to continuing to add services to CSM that'll help you in this regard. You know, ongoing opportunities to engage socially, certainly via the web at first, in the current environment, and hopefully face-to-face down the road. But that's really important, as well as in regards to your wellness. And finally, from a community perspective, you know, find your people and find your positive people. Surround yourself with positivity. Do not go down the negative road. I think that's the one greatest thing that I've seen affect people's, young onset people's progression with the disease is their attitude. So realize that if you are a negative attitude right now, you're going to go downhill a lot faster. You got to find something that's going to pull you out of that and get you positive. You know, I'm at the point where I know I'm doing everything I can to help myself live with the disease as best I can. And from there, I'm just going to enjoy life because that's all I can do. And there's another saying out there that I like that stuck with me. And it goes like this: PD is a word, not a sentence. So we have a double entendre meaning there, right? It's just a word, it's not a sentence. It's not a prison sentence if you don't let it be. So, you know, really stay on the positive side of life and get involved in a community that keeps you positive and lifts you up. And if you're in one that's not right now, get out of it. Mm-hmm. And be as an advocate for yourself with regards to all aspects of your life, because it's your life and you need to take control of it. So finally, you know, I just want to mention, you know, we invite any and all folks on the call that are involved with the YOPD community, whether you are a young onset or maybe you're a spouse to one or friend of one, to subscribe to our website at can'tshakeme.org so that you can be put on our list of updates as we continue to build out the community, and we can keep you up to date on all the great things that we're doing. So that's my 2 cents on that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing work. Thanks for that. Thanks for all you guys are doing.
We hope to make it easier for those in the future than it was for us. I mean, to think that I hadn't met anyone with PD until 10 years in, because I purposely kept myself out of it. But had I known there was a safe place I could go with other young onset, it would have been very different for me, I think.
Yeah.
So
thanks for that. Thank you both for your work there.
You're welcome.
Oh, I want to ask you something, Allison, actually. Tell us more about, I know you were introduced as a social worker, but tell us a little bit about what you do in your role as a social worker for a neurology department at Duke.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So social workers or clinical social workers are a key part of interdisciplinary teams, or they can be, and especially when working with folks with YOPD and their families, as you mentioned. We're all about family-centered care and meeting people right where they are, what challenges they come with, what happy things they come with. We're really about just working with you right where you are. We help with managing the practical matters like making routines or care coordination, or help you to remove barriers to accessing care. Sometimes we help with changes at work, like Paul mentioned. Some folks just need a little direction of where to go or some help thinking creatively about it. And we definitely help to connect people to resources and education.
That's awesome.
But it's really important. Yeah, and there is so much work and benefit, I think, in just that. But another really important part of what a lot of social workers do, clinical social workers like me, is they fill that mental health role on a team. It doesn't have to be a clinical social worker, but you can get a lot of value from a counselor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist as part of your team. Because we know that in YOPD and PD overall, mental health issues are a really big part of it for a lot of folks. I think like 40% of folks with YOPD will experience some depression or anxiety somewhere along the line. So we provide that support to patients and their families. We do a lot of support just for care partners as well. If you don't have access to a social worker specifically and you're looking to just talk with one, this is a really great thing, Anna, that you reminded me of. You can always call the Parkinson's Foundation helpline. It's staffed with lots of experts, including some social workers and nurses that can help you make a lot of those connections that I just mentioned. And lastly, we just want to help folks feel hopeful and look to tomorrow. That's a really big part of it.
Allison, I wish we had one of you in every city. That would be really great.
Well, you guys, it's been so meaningful to have these conversations with both of you. You truly are the real experts, and I really appreciate your openness and honesty, and I know that our viewers today do too.
Thank you.
So now we're gonna open it up for questions to the audience.
Hi, everybody, and that's my cue to get back on. Thank you so much, Allison and Paul and Anna, for your fantastic information, the information that was very, very valuable to our audience, both people young onset diagnosed and also the health professionals who are watching today. Some questions did come in, and before I even start to ask some questions, a comment came in that I thought really spoke to your vibrancy of what you are doing and who you are as people. And that comment was the resilience and the awareness that you are sharing, everybody, just jumps off the screen as you're sharing with our viewers. And I just want to so much appreciate you sharing that, especially being diagnosed at a young age. This is not what you planned for you or your family, and with a neurodegenerative disease at the prime of your life. And you've taken that information and that, the wherewithal, and made it work for you, and how individual it all is, and how you are living with this and throughout your life. I have a question. There are some questions that have come in, and Anna, you alluded to this too, and Allison, how you support this of self-efficacy, that for you to be your own advocate in every step of the way. And Anna, as you described when you had your first physician appointment of your diagnosis and that horrific story, you chose this is not for me, I'm going somewhere else. Can you tell us a little bit about how you had the fortitude to decide this person is not for me, and not to accept that this is the person I need to work with and there are other options out there that can make me feel good with this diagnosis?
I guess you might attribute it to my almost 30 years in sales and sales leadership. I mean, I have high expectations for myself and for everyone I work with, and I'm not gonna take any SHIT. I mean, I wanted to make sure that I had good care, and I think too many people are afraid, like, oh, I can't talk that way to them. I can't push back. I can't leave them now. I had one appointment with them. You certainly can. They're serving you. You're not there to help them. So, I think you just need to get your diva on and, look out for yourself. I don't know how else to put it, really. There's no education around it. You just gotta do it.
Thank you. And Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
No, actually, I don't. I mean, Anna has nailed it right on the head. I mean, she's nailed it.
Great. Okay. Another question has come in also about your interdisciplinary team that Allison was speaking about. Was that something that came of top of mind during, at a diagnosis at a young age, that you do want to look for or work with a physical therapist or a speech and language pathologist or even a neuropsychologist for an assessment at a young age to set the baseline to go forward?
Paul, you have any thoughts on that before I jump in?
To be honest, I haven't done any of that, and I probably should. I mean, I'm actually starting physical therapy now. I go twice a week now for dry needling in my back and my neck and stuff, because I get the real stiffness and rigid muscles up there, and that's helped out a lot. But I mean, I recognize I probably should go to speech therapy also. I mean, I'm starting to ramble my speech, and I can feel it coming on and stuff. I should look into that myself, and I would encourage everyone that they should do the same thing. I mean, Anna, please jump in. I mean, I
would just say, I think the hardest thing with young onset is having the time to do it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm still a working adult.
I was working full time, and I worked full time for 10 years. And I hate to say it, I mean, I kept myself as active as I could those 10 years, exercising when I could, but not by any means where I probably needed to, because I had 2 kids and I was working full time. And how much time does one have? And then on top of it, I had Parkinson's, and I was freaking tired at night, and I got home and did everything. So, that's the other thing I would say is really good about our organization, is that we're also looking to educate people on their options. So many people have great benefits at work, and I ask them, like, well, what is your disability plan like? Do you have one? Do you have a long-term plan? I don't know. I really don't know. Like, there is a lack of awareness of what's out there for you. You may be in a situation where you're set up pretty well if you go out on disability, and you have the ability to do it and stay solvent financially, and be able to focus on yourself. And I know not everyone has that benefit, but do you even know if you do or not, I guess is the question, right? So I've been through that whole process, and I was able to work it out. So now I do a lot of exercise and things for myself. I joined a Parkinson's singing group to keep the voice strong and allow me a new platform other than just my car to belt it out. It's a lot of fun. I'm starting to try to do some acupuncture and chiropractic work and things to keep my bones and muscles limber. And, I think it's a matter of lack of awareness too about what that means. What is an interdisciplinary team? That's the thing, so that's why Paul and I are really passionate about trying to get, all of these things out to our community, our people, in a more efficient and effective way than they had been out there for us.
Yeah, I'll just jump in because I could literally spend all day trying to convince folks that interdisciplinary care is where it is. I'm a little biased because I'm a part of a really great group of interdisciplinary providers. But remember, there's that study I mentioned, I think it's in 2011, that talks about exercise is neuroprotective. Okay, but a lot of folks don't know how to exercise. And there are other ways to learn, but seeing a physical therapist is one way. And you think of exercise for your voice or for your swallowing, that's going to come from PT. A lot of folks have no idea what occupational therapy does. And you may find that you don't have a specific need, but baseline assessments along the way, every year or every few years, can be so helpful. But mostly they can help you stay ahead and learn those things. And it's okay if you go once and they say don't come back. Also, more and more centers are working on organizing their care. In fact, at Duke, just about 2 years ago, we totally overhauled it. And we've got this one busy half day where folks see all the providers. And it's hard, but talk with your providers about your challenges from work or from parenting. And you may be surprised to find that there are some creative solutions out there. And if you're a provider, refer early. It's not a waste to refer someone early.
And I just wanted to say, with the advent of telehealth now, I really think we're going to see options opening up greatly for people who might be in remote areas. Yeah. Paul and I are very fortunate in the Metro DC area. And I know it's hard for some folks like in the middle of the country to find a movement disorder specialist. But I'm hopeful that with the change to telehealth that, some of you all could see my doctor at some point, as an example. Yeah, so, and do make sure you're with a movement disorder specialist if you can at all. It's different. They are neurologists still, but it's a different certification that they receive, and that's specific for dealing with Parkinson's movement disorders.
Mm-hmm. You know, the silver lining of telehealth is really wonderful to the access of care when there are no state borders. I have one of our last questions in looking at the time, and you know, certainly for those of you who've asked questions and that we are not able to get to your questions, unfortunately, I believe in your comment back and our reply that we'd welcome you to reach out to our helpline. There are live professionals on the call. They can answer your questions. I have a question, Allison. There are a few that have come in about when when somebody's diagnosed under 50 and considered young onset Parkinson's, and now they're 60. Are they still being treated? Is there any treatment differences now that they've been living with the disease for a decade once diagnosed? And the second part of this is the medication management of this. Are things different at all for recommendations if you were diagnosed under 50 or over 55 or 50?
Okay, so I'll start it by saying while I work with lots of folks with Parkinson's, I'm not a movement disorder specialist. Generally speaking, the symptom management is about the same. It's about the same. There are side effects that come with certain medications that may be more sort of acceptable to someone who's retired and not at work. Things like, being more tired, for example, or fluctuations in your on and off times, or what times in the day you're able to sort of be on and off, or how much of that you can tolerate, make a difference if you're going to work every day versus if you're not working any longer. So I think it's more, a really great movement disorder specialist I work with, this great work that these providers are doing is more of an art than a science. Mm-hmm. Things look different to different people on different days, and nothing's really wrong or right. And your own opinion of something may change over time, and so I just encourage you to think creatively about that and be open and honest. Now, there are options like surgical options and things like that come along after somebody has tried medication for some time. So you just want to keep that in mind, that there are some treatments that you may have to try other things first.
I'll add one thing there. Do make sure that you keep in mind as well that your doctor's appointments are probably a 20-minute view inside your window over a 90-day period since they saw you last. It's not always representative of how you're doing. So again, you need to be an advocate for yourself. You need to be, I can't preach what I don't do, but everybody should diary, as far as how they felt that day, maybe what they ate, what they did, was it a good day, was it a bad day, when did they take their meds? So you can really self-analyze your whole being. I can't say I do that. However, I do try to jot down things that I can bring up proactively to my doctor that I'm having a hard time with that may never ever surface in the meeting that I have with him during that 20-minute period of time. And if it's a good doctor, he'll drill in to try to find those things as well. So
that's a wonderful suggestion. Preparation, right? Yeah. The preparation prior to the office visit. Well, yeah. I'm looking at the time, and somehow this 1 hour has flown by. So I want to thank you not only for today's presentation, but for working with you these past few months, Allison, Anna, and Paul. It's been a privilege getting to know you and the work and the ideas of what your message is to our viewers, both community and our professionals. I admire, and you have our sincere gratitude from the Parkinson's Foundation. And although young onset PD can feel extremely disruptive, especially at a young age, the Parkinson's Foundation has resources, and we're growing the resources thanks to this fall series of expert briefings for you to view and to learn from. So I thank you, Allison and Anna and Paul, for joining us today. I have a few final words, and then I will let everybody go as well. As I said in the beginning, some things have stayed the same from these expert briefings. So again, as a reminder for those health professionals who are looking for CEUs, again, we'll chat it in, we'll put the link in the chat, You can grab it there if you miss it. You can always find it on our website, and you have 30 days to obtain your free CEU. This webinar is recorded on demand. Take a look, be on the lookout for it. It'll be ready in a few days to view at your leisure. And also you can download the slides of today's presentation via the link in the chat or on our website as well. Parkinson's Foundations has a plethora of resources, and we are here for you. We invite you to look on the page of our website at parkinson.org, YOPD, for more information. And also our other resources are available. If we weren't able to get to your question today, you can certainly call our helpline, and there's live professionals there to listen or to email back to you. And tune into our podcast, which we have relevant information as well. And don't forget, this is only the first of the series, and some of the topics that were spoken about today, we will be digging deeper as you requested in our next two webinars. One is about employment, and the other one is about partnership, the dance of relationships. And you can register for our webinars as well. And don't forget, once we sign off, please stay on your screen. A survey will pop up, and we want to hear from you. How did it go? Did you like a little deeper dive into a topic? And also, please share with us other topics that are of interest to you so we can serve you better. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.